And I mentioned this yesterday, but soil loss is being one of the major issues we're dealing with, and this is something that in holistic management we're focused on a lot, is creating soil. And that I know restoration agriculture, that's a main focus also. Creating soil, here's the statistic, is that we're losing 70 billion tons of this every year, and that's 10 tons of soil for every half ton of food. It takes approximately a half ton of food to feed somebody for a year. We're losing 10 tons of soil just to feed one person for 1 year. We have to change that, and of course that soil loss leads to all these other issues. We have the opportunity to change that dynamic and make it the most powerfully impactful. What is holistic management? It does come back to starting with the heart, like I was talking about yesterday, starting with quality of life. Just flat out yes. Yes, it's a decision-making framework for any kind of decision. You don't have to own land to use holistic management. They just do happen to have practices for if you do own land that are very Smuts, who wrote this book, Holism and Evolution, in 1923. It was deeply influential on Alan Savory, so that's where he kind of took this first principle from. Jan Smuts said that he spent a lot of time out in the African savannas, grasslands, and he said the bushveld is a place that grips you and subdues you and makes you one with yourself. So I think all these kinds of experiences help to experience the world as a unity in that sense, and come up with this idea that basically nature functions in whole. So there's 4 key insights in holistic management. We talked about this one yesterday, just the idea that nature functions in whole. And these are insights that Alan sort of developed over the years. He was a wildlife biologist. He worked in national parks in Rhodesia. Started understanding how the environment functioned differently than he had been taught in school, and differently than traditionally ecologists of the time had been thinking about it. So the other insights are about understanding your environment. We'll talk a little bit about what that means, about the relationships between predator and prey and how that affects behavior, how that's tied into landscape function. When it comes to grazing, time and timing, when it comes to grazing and plant recovery, we have sort of 4 planning processes we use in holistic management if we're using the full framework. All of them, of course, are important because everything we're doing in holistic management, we're aiming to engage that entire whole, which includes not just the ecological, not just the social, but also the financial. Like, we have to have all of those things functioning well in the long term to have a sustainable type of a system. Right? 4 ecosystem processes. So this is how in holistic management we kind of break things down to make them simple enough and manage, while recognizing that you can't, in reality, separate any of those 4 processes. They're all part of a single whole ecosystem. But we can think of them as kind of 4 different windows looking out onto the same ecosystem. And that's water cycle, the mineral cycle, community dynamics, what are the organisms, what's the level of succession going on, and energy flow. This is far west Texas. It's actually Chris Gill's place. We saw some, he's also using some keyline stuff out there. We saw some pictures from him. But yeah, he's going wild with this stuff as far as he's got a herder out there moving his animals all the time. He doesn't have animals there all the time, at least cattle that is, but he has a lot of diversity of other animals. He's got elk out here, some couple of herds of elk, because elk are actually originally a grassland animal. It's only after we've changed the landscapes with that land cover change we talked about yesterday so drastically that they've been chased up into the mountains. But it's originally a grassland herbivore. Yeah.
Can you replace cattle with wildlife to do the same function that cattle would do?
Well, you can't control wildlife to the same degree that that we're able to manage cattle, but you can certainly incorporate wildlife into your grazing plan, plan for how much forage they're eating, and move them around to a certain extent, maybe with water.
Oh, this was just a real quick part of it. Were the elk you were talking about, were those intentionally placed, or did those just spontaneously show up because of...
Oh no, he brought them in, because
okay.
there's no elk source population in West Texas.
Right, okay.
There's just not. In fact, he's brought in llamas, he's brought in donkeys, he's brought in He's trying to have a multi-species system out there. He even was on the phone with zoos talking about bringing in rhinos. He finally canceled his bison attempts because he just was not able to keep them fenced in effectively, and he had wound up with a bunch of bison on the 10 freeway, which is right in front of his ranch, and it wasn't too good. It wasn't good. Yes?
How does he manage the elk?
How does he manage them? Well, I'm not certain that he specifically managed them. I think they're not a large enough herd that they're causing any significant damage. He has 36,000 acres. He's got a lot of bighorn sheep out there.
Does he have predators there, or is it just hunting?
Well, there are predators there, but maybe not. There's like mountain lions and things like that, but maybe not to the degree that a fully functional system would have. Right? But he's trying to build a more fully functional system over time. And yeah, he's using cattle as well, but he doesn't have cattle on there all the time, every year. Some years he doesn't bring them in.